Today we're going to break down three of the most foundational concepts you'll find in applied behavior analysis: behavior, response, and response class. Honestly, these terms are the bedrock of the entire field, and really getting the difference between them is crucial for anyone studying or practicing ABA.
So you might be looking at these three words and thinking, okay, aren't these just different ways of saying the same thing? And at first glance, I get it. They seem pretty interchangeable. But in ABA, precision is everything. Each one of these terms describes a different level of analysis, and understanding that distinction is what allows behavior analysts to be so incredibly precise and effective. So let's clear up any confusion.
We're going to start with the broadest, most all-encompassing term of the three, and that's behavior. You can think of this as the giant umbrella that everything else in ABA fits under. It really is the starting point for the entire science.
The scientific definition of behavior is actually beautifully simple. It's just anything a living organism does. That's it. It's that broad. It refers to the total activity of an organism, a concept that covers everything from the tiniest muscle twitch to the most complex thought process. So let's unpack that a little. First, it has to involve a living organism. You know, a rock rolling down a hill isn't behavior, but a person pushing that rock definitely is. It also has to interact with the environment in some way. And here's a really important point. It's not just about public actions. Sure, behavior can be overt, things we can all see and hear, like talking or walking. But it can also be covert, meaning private, like thinking about what you're going to have for dinner. Yep, in behavior analysis, even thinking is considered a form of behavior.
Okay, so if behavior is this huge entire universe of actions, how in the world do we study it? Well, we have to zoom in. We have to look at a single moment in time. And this brings us to our next concept, the response.
A response is basically one slice of that big behavioral pie. So if the overall behavior is writing, then making a single stroke with a pen is one response. It's a specific individual instance of that broader behavior. This is the unit that we can actually count and measure.
And this is the crucial part. The response is what analysts count, what they time, and what they analyze. It has to have a clear beginning and a clear end. Think about picking up a pencil, for instance. It's something you can observe. And technically, it involves an effector, which is really just a scientific term for the body parts that do the work, like our muscles or glands.
Now we get to the third concept, and this is where things get really powerful. What happens when you have a bunch of different, individual responses that all achieve the exact same thing? That's where we shift from looking at the form of an action, what it looks like, to its function, what it does. And this is what we call a response class.
So a response class is a group of different responses that all serve the same purpose. The key thing to remember here isn't what the actions look like, it's what they do. They all produce the same outcome. They all create the same change in the environment.
This slide illustrates the idea perfectly. Take a look at the different forms on the left. You could say, hey, you could wave your hand, or you could tap someone on the shoulder. In terms of their physical form, those are completely different actions. But now, look at their function. What do they all accomplish? They all get a person's attention. Because they achieve the same result, they all belong to the same response class.
Okay, so we've got the big, general category, we've got the single instance, and we've got the functional group. Let's put these three concepts side by side to really lock in the relationship between them.
This table makes that hierarchy super clear. You see, behavior is the most general category, based on all of an organism's activity. Then, a response narrows the scope way down to a specific instance, a single action. And finally, a response class is a functional group, which is based entirely on a shared outcome. Do you see that flow? It goes from broad to specific to functional.
To make this even easier to remember, let's use a simple everyday analogy. Just imagine you're in your kitchen and you're staring down a very, very stubborn jar of pickles.
So in this scenario, the overarching behavior is the general idea of opening something. A single response would be one specific attempt, let's say twisting the lid just one time with your hand. Now the response class, that's where it gets interesting. That includes every single action that could achieve the goal: twisting it, running the lid under hot water, tapping it on the counter, using a special jar opener, or even just asking someone else for help. They all look completely different, but they all have the same function: to get that pickle jar open. All right, so at this point you might be thinking, okay, that's a neat distinction, but why is it so important?
Well, this level of precision is exactly what makes applied behavior analysis such a powerful tool for creating change.
See, by understanding response classes, an analyst can focus on what a behavior accomplishes, not just what it looks like. And this is absolutely critical. Let's say we only focus on stopping one form of a behavior, like hitting. If we miss the function, let's say the function is to get attention, the person might just switch to yelling. That's a different response, but it's in the same response class. A good intervention addresses the function itself. It teaches a whole new response class of appropriate ways to get attention, like raising a hand or using a communication device. This is how you create more effective and adaptable interventions that actually work in the real world.
If you need one last way to remember all this, here's a fantastic little mnemonic. Think of behavior as the entire buffet of food available. A response is just taking one single bite, and a response class is all the different ways you could successfully eat a taco. With your hands, with a fork, it doesn't matter how you do it as long as you achieve the function of eating the taco. So there you have it. Those are the building blocks of ABA. Behavior is the category, a response is the single instance, and a response class is the functional group. Now that you have this framework, think about this. How might this change the way you observe and understand the actions of others, or even your own actions in your day-to-day life? It's a pretty powerful shift in perspective.